has been on real overload. I think that's the best way I can describe it. Just big shifts, upgrades, new things, and sometimes I think we just have to step back and consolidate. So I'm coming on a little bit mind blown right now. I just finished a pre-recorded interview with one of my very favorite healers and amazing human being. I'll leave it for a surprise for when I air it. You'll know who it is. But anyway, we were talking about the consciousness bubble. We were talking about healing. We were talking about what's happening in the future, what we're moving toward, what's happening with humanity, the spiritual war. And one of the things that I loved the most was the way he described what's happening with human consciousness. It's that it's like a rising bubble, and that every person who takes a step forward, who lets go of some old trauma, who has a shift in consciousness, some kind of expansion in consciousness, every single time that happens, it expands the bubble. Now, another word for this consciousness bubble is a morphic field. I've talked about morphic fields in the past. This term was coined by Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, and a morphic field is literally a dimension of reality that has its own laws of cause and effect, and it's interactive. When you, for example, a healing modality, when you work with a healing modality, and you, as a practitioner or as a client, and you have a shift, that healing modality, which is connected to a morphic field of its own, a particular dimension of reality with its own laws of how things work, what's possible, what's not possible, how you can access, you know, that potential that's been hidden until now. When you actually have a result based on interacting with the morphic field becomes stronger, and it becomes more available to everybody, including you. So we are interacting in that way as well as other ways, but in that specific way, we're interacting with the universe, and our consciousness is interacting with everyone's consciousness and with divine consciousness and with what is possible in the world now. And for that reason, it's incredibly imperative to step in on bigger and stronger and deeper levels to our own sovereignty. What is sovereignty? Okay, I'll also tell you, I had a session with two amazing healers last night. That I mean, I'm an energy healer. I have been studying energy healing since, I don't know, let's say past 16, 17 years. And I've interviewed so many energy healers that are founders of modalities. And I've been treated by so many of them and so many practitioners, and it's literally thousands of sessions between what I've done myself and what I've received from others, without a doubt. And yet, you know, sometimes things are buried even deeper, and sometimes things are buried like, like I talked about in the recent live stream I did with Ani and Rivka. Sometimes it's past lives. More and more of where our soul's consciousness is, even that's been hidden from us, is being revealed and made accessible to us now. And that's super important, because healing is full embodiment. When the soul is fully embodied, that's when your body, mind, spirit, life cannot be anything but healthy and flourishing. But how can your soul be in your body if part of you is still stuck in a past life trauma, or a present life trauma, or a limiting belief, or a bad relationship, or a disappointed, shattered expectation? So one of the places that I went last night that was really surprising to me in this session was into when I first got involved in this whole Mashiach Geula activity, which was back in 1991. And I was a very young mother and very young children. And I had a trauma. I lost my third baby, was damaged by malpractice, and then died by malpractice 6 months later. And her soul, it's very, very clear to me that her soul came to activate mine. This is actually a concept in the mystical Torah that so it's called Ibor, which is a kind of, I guess, impregnation where a very holy soul of a tzaddik can come into someone to connect with the soul of a living person. Maybe it can happen with living between a living person and another. I don't know the technicalities of how it works, but it is possible, and it's a known thing, and I'm positive that this is part of what happened to me, that a high level soul can come in to an ordinary person with, I mean, no soul is ordinary, but what the level of soul that we have access to can be quote unquote ordinary. That's all changing, by the way. That's all changing. But anyway, the soul of this baby, which clearly was a super high level soul, pushed me and turned me into this like burning torch. And I threw everything that I had, everything. At the Rebbe, at that time, the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, was talking about how he'd done everything he could, and now it's up to us, and we have to do everything we can to push us over the edge, to bring Mashiach, the Redeemer, to bring the Geula, the Messianic era, the Messianic redemption. I'll tell you something else. This is hot off the press because these are things that these are new thoughts for me that just, I'm rolling since last night. So what seems to have happened at the time was that there was a huge burst, like a contraction in birth. I often think about the events of history, in at least recent history, last decades, and certainly this is as the birth process, the birth of the Messianic era, of our true being, our true awakening. And so what happened then, I believe, was a giant contraction, or maybe it actually started the birth process. Maybe it's where, the baby, probably that's what it was, where the baby gets fully gestated and then needs to have a very different experience. Now, baby can't stay in the womb too long and it can't leave too early or it's a problem. So I'm pretty sure what happened then in 1991, 1992, around the Rebbe and cosmically, was that, the cervix of our human, our birth toward destiny, to our next level, to our awakened level, that it opened and the journey through the birth canal began. And how that works is contractions, pressure, and then release. You could say, you know, consequential events, and then processing and integrating, consequential event, processing and integrating. Anyway, we are really at the, it seems like can I know for sure that we're at the peak? It seems like we're in transition. I don't know how long it's going to last or what has to happen. And I'm here also to tell you that that is consciousness dependent. It depends on us. It does not depend on anything other than us and our consciousness in this consciousness bubble. So back then, and this is what sovereignty is about, this is what healing is about, and this is what all the events of the time are about. So back then, I expected, because of it seems like there needed to be a very strong push. I'm trying to look back now in the light of what I learned last night in the sealing session and what I learned today in my prayer and meditation. So it's all coming up new for me. So it seems to me that what had to happen back at that time was enough of a push forward that the birth process would start and not stop. What is the birth process? Again, it's the awakening of the soul. It's the awakening of the human being. It's the awakening of the new era, the Messianic era, which once again, it has a conclusion. That's the birth. But right now we're in the birth process, in the birth canal. So I'll be really personal here. Should I be really personal? Let me think. I'm going to be really personal. So what happened to me then was I threw in everything that I had, everything, and many things I didn't think I had, to pushing this, because the Rebbe said, one person make the difference. He said 10 people could make the difference. I said 3, 2, 1. So I was very naive. I was very young. I was very disempowered, I would say. And I did not know at all what I was capable of, really not. And so I was looking for the big people, the quote unquote big people, the leaders, in the community, to tell us what to do. What was unique about me? I was activated because this baby, had just come into my life, and with all this damage and this ibor, this soul, creating this burning in me, creating this activation in me, creating this, pull me right outside of, because one of the things that happens to all of us is, and you probably heard this term, normalcy bias, we get stuck in our way of thinking. We get stuck in what we know about life and about the world. It's a comfort. It's called the comfort zone, but it's not really because it's comfortable necessarily. In some ways, it is comfortable. Like I've said before, the identity wants to know what's going to happen. It wants to know what the rules are. It wants to know who it is, what it is, how it's going to be, and that's why we get so triggered when somebody disagrees with us on a fundamental level, because they're threatening our entire universe. That's a problem, by the way. We have to get over that. But anyway, I looked around at the leaders in my community, and I was shocked out of my gourd when the morning after the Rebbe announced that it was like, this is it, he's giving it to us, take it home. I went to the synagogue in the head synagogue of the Chabad Lubavitch movement in Brooklyn, where I lived in Crown Heights, and there was nobody there. I thought the place would be filled with like 100,000 people. You can't really fit 100, but you could fit 10,000 people in there. And I thought they'd all be in there like debating, what are we going to do? How do we break through this? It's unbelievable. It's the new era. Crickets. And that was strange. And then a woman came in and said, we're going to the gravesite of the previous Rebbe, 10 women, we're going to pray there, join us. And I'm like, okay, it's the only game in town, I'll join them. And it didn't take more than a few days. I'm not going to spend time talking about the history of it, maybe at another time. But I started to find myself in the front. Not that I wanted to be in the front, not that I felt capable of being in the front, but I would look around and be like, shouldn't we be talking about how to, and okay, could you make when I went to influential friend, could you make a meeting of the people that, that matter, and so that you guys can talk about what to do? It's like, I guess, could I come and take notes? Yeah, I get, and it just was like, went on like that until it was obvious to me and everybody that I was burning. And many things happened then. Okay, why I'm saying this. Many things happened in about 11 months while the Rebbe was ramping people up by saying things like, Mashiach, the Messiah, is ready to come any second. He's standing behind the wall. He's yearning. It could be this minute. I remember being in 770 in the synagogue, Erev Yom Kippur, like an hour or two before the 25, 26-hour fast of Yom Kippur on that holy day. And everybody's waiting to go have their pre-fast meal. And the Rebbe was like, and Mashiach could come now. And then the Beis HaMikdash, the third temple would be built now. And when the third temple is built, we have to have a dedication, a Chanukas HaBayis, a celebration, and we won't fast. And everybody was standing there waiting to see, at least this is how I felt. I used to look out the window that was across this giant, place that was actually in a basement of a very big apartment building. So I used to look across at the window to see if the scenery had changed, because the Rebbe kept saying, then we'll go to Jerusalem with all of our homes. And, it was because I was so out of my normalcy bias. I was so out of my normalcy with the baby and with obviously her soul, this holy, powerful soul, this fire soul agitating me and my whatever. It was a confluence of events that now I'm thinking I came down for. So for me, it was like as real as anything could be in the universe. And what I came to awareness of last night in the session is that, first of all, most people were not feeling that, not like I was. And so there was not the highest level of consciousness that seems to be needed to get us over the edge into a miraculous dimension, which the redemption is. There was enough consciousness and enough effort, it seems, to, as I said before, to start the birth process, to start the birth process. What is the birth process? Technically in Torah, it's called Yemot HaMashiach, the Messianic era, the Geula process. So here's the real personal part. I got stuck. And I knew that. I mean, I kind of knew that I was stuck in that time. It's not that I haven't done anything since. I've done massive things since, but emotionally and energetically, and I don't know, psychically, spiritually, I've hardly had time to process it. But it's become clear that part of me remained back there because it should have happened then. That's what my mind tells me, and I believe that it could have happened then. I mean, after the fact, everything's the way it's meant to be, but there are different timelines, right? So in that timeline, everybody would have woken up, become conscious, heard the Rebbe. Like there's an expression in Yiddish, there's Herren and der Herren. You can hear or you can hear. They heard, but they didn't. I guess some people did, some people did, but um, most people were followers, and I don't know if most people still are followers. Some people call followers sheeple. Some people want to be the shepherd. Some people want to be the wolf. We all have our roles, but we're not meant to be sheeple. We're not meant to be followers. We're meant to be divine beings, awakened divine beings. And it's clear now, and it's becoming clearer as I'm looking back. It's very emotional for me because I did not realize the consequences of being stuck back there. Like I was mad and I was devastated. Even moving forward and even in happy moments and even whatever, that it didn't happen then because I took the Rebbe literally as I should have, that, just push it over the edge, just push it over the edge. And that's why I threw everything in because I figured, okay, so, my kids won't have the 4-course meal tonight, because I'm busy like making things happen, whatever, but it's worth it. It's like, okay, so I won't go to the dentist, this month because it's worth it because the birth is into an era where everything is unbelievably good. And that's true. But what wasn't true was that the world was ready for it. So I was a mismatch to the people that I was around. And if you're, most of the people watching this are probably a mismatch to a lot of the world around you. Let me know if if you feel like a mismatch, share that in the chat because we're a soul tribe, we're a soul community. And what I do believe, though, and I'm in the process of extricating myself, whatever parts of me, I mentioned in the beginning, based on what Rivka and Ani said, and I guess it was last week, whatever, I don't remember the exact day, when they talked about healing soul fragments, pulling soul fragments back out of where they're stuck and traumas of the past that leave us with patterns in the present. So that can be in past lives, that can be in present life. So there's no doubt. I now have no doubt that a big piece of my soul was back there waiting for somebody to fix it because it shouldn't have been that way. It was awful. And then, 30 years down the line, and now we're in a spiritual war. In some ways, it's a physical war. And so the reason that I'm bringing this up isn't to share something personal. Primarily, that's not the point. The point is, I'm sharing personally because, when we share personally, we show other people our own process and what's possible. So we help them shed light on their process. And that means share with others. Because whatever darkness you've experienced or are experiencing, whatever light is bubbling up within you, whatever transformation or transmuting you can do of that. And our primary purpose here is to transform light into darkness. Darkness into light, sorry. Take that back. Cancel. Darkness into light. That's what Hasidus says. That's what the mystical Torah says. So that is a light for other people. It's also an activation for other people. We've got to connect. Gabe is saying that this game is strange. Seems like the truth of being one with God supreme is way too much for people to process and reconcile so far. It's really a deep comment. And yeah, but it can't stay like that because that's where we're going. So we can go like, donkeys being pulled or hit from behind or whatever, shocked to get us to walk, or we can go like, magnificent horses and run toward that future. And yeah, I seem to be way more connected to who I was before I got here, and I don't like it on Earth much. It's boring here. Let's make it less boring. It doesn't have to be boring. It's only boring when we stay in this strata. It's only boring when we stay in this, bandwidth. But it's stagnant. It's stagnant. So, yeah. So here's the thing. Just to finish this thought, what came out in this session last night. Not only that part of me, this is a big piece of my soul. It's not just a fragment. Big piece of my soul was stuck there in the shock. Like what? Something was supposed to happen and it just went south instead. Like I already threw everything in. Like this, it's complicated, let's just put it that way. But also this feeling that it's got to have meaning. Somebody's got to make it right. This wasn't okay. And in some way, I'm still processing this. So this is pretty raw. I'll share what I get when I get it. Maybe if it feels like shareable. But that is impeding me in the mightiness that each of us has to be and can be and is being called to be and is being opened to be in this time. The mightiness. And that's what sovereignty is. Sovereignty means kingship, malchus. And sovereignty is your ability to act upon the world, through the world, with the world, into the world, in a way that your vision and intention prevails and becomes actual physical 3D reality. That's sovereignty. And sovereignty is on a personal level in our own person, means being who we are and not having to feed into where we're not. And one of the things it means is not allowing ourselves to get triggered into fear. And if we get triggered into fear, which is there, I've said this so many times, where fear is being weaponized against us. It's just a story. One time I was like 2 months ago, I was feeling like I'd been on Telegram, and I don't tune into mainstream media at all, but even alternative media. So I was, reading this person's opinion and this person's warning and this person's, prepare for XYZ. And I was starting to get kind of freaked out. And I said to my husband, we're sitting on the porch here in Spot. And I said to my husband, it's really scary. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. We have to get ready. And he's like, you're watching the media. And I'm like, but no. He's like, look around. I'm like, but, and he's like, no, really, stop, look around. And I looked and I realized what he was trying to point out. Nothing was happening. Like where I was, peaceful. Everything. Is something going to happen? Are things going to happen? They have to, because birth is like that. The world is giving birth. We are being born. But does it have to be turbulent? Does it have to be scary? Turbulent, maybe, but a surfer is looking for the big wave. Turbulent can be exciting. It can be amazing. It can be the most exhilarating. Gibbs said it's boring. Turbulent is the opposite of boring, but does it have to be scary turbulent, or can it be amazing turbulent? And that depends so much on us as individuals and also as a soul collective. We are a soul collective. So one of the pieces of sovereignty, one of the keys to sovereignty is don't buy into anyone else's narrative. And another key, and I'm trained by nature. I'm a mediator. Sorry, I'm playing with my crystals and it's making noise. By nature, I'm a mediator. By nature, I tend to see people's potential. I mean, I can get plenty angry too, but I tend to see people's potential. That's why I'm a spiritual mentor, I'm a coach, whatever. And And I by nature have, and by training, can see other people's point of view. And I think that sometimes I've seen that as a virtue, and it is a virtue, but it can also be, like many virtues, it can also have a stingy tail. And the stingy tail of seeing everybody's point of view is, sometimes you have to see things for what they are, and sometimes you have to call things out, and sometimes you have to be angry, because righteous anger can be very holy. Now, it can't be from the ego. If it's from the ego, it's unlikely that it's righteous. And we all have triggers and traumas that we're here to work on. And that's also been my path forward. It's my trauma, it's my trigger. I got to work on it. But that doesn't mean, you can love every soul, maybe. I'm not sure. Most. I kind of draw the line at mass murderers. But intentional mass murderers. But you can't love every action, and you can't excuse every action. You can't be okay with every action. And if people insist on being stuck in ego-based consciousness and in their stories and their narratives, and insist on things being in the future the way they always were, because that's the way we do things and that's the way we think about things. And on top of it, the way that we always did things is not necessarily the most conscious way and the deepest way, not to mention that that was then and this is now. So that's a problem. And that's something that can't be tolerated. And that is something that I have just started to wake up to, because if it were up to me, I'd be like, okay, let's let bygones be bygones. Now everybody just step forward into the brilliant brand future, and, we'll all be these evolved beings. But there is a certain amount of breaking and smashing and truth telling that has to happen. And so that's part of sovereignty too. Part of sovereignty is saying no, no, no. You don't get to have my cooperation. You don't get to have my understanding in this. You don't get to have my excusing. No, you don't. Wake up, make up for whatever, and show yourself. Be the person that you're here to be. Be part of the forward movement and not part of the be part of the redemption and not part of the exile. Be part of the healing and not part of the sickness. Be part of the open searching and not part of the I know, and I don't even have to know, because the authorities can tell me. The science, the scientists can help you, can help you. Don't you believe in science? Don't you believe in whatever? My father was a scientist, and in college I did a paper on how science is a religion, not because it was a religion for my father, but it's just so obvious that people need to believe in something. But the problem is that we don't need to believe in science, and we don't need to believe in media, and we don't need to believe in government, and we don't need to believe in medical authorities. Look where that's getting us. Look where that's gotten us. We need to believe in God, and we need to believe in ourselves. And that doesn't mean like, oh, anything I say goes. That means I have a deeper self and a deeper self and a deeper self, and it's evolving. And I need to connect to it and love it and trust it. And I need to trust myself and my imperfections. And I need to believe, like I didn't believe when I first got involved back in the day in 1991, like I was speaking about a little bit ago. So I didn't believe in myself at all. But I was so burning, with the baby soul and being in front of the Rebbe and seeing the horror of like suffering and death, and hearing, I literally heard, this doesn't have to be anymore. So though I didn't believe in myself, my deeper self overrode my personal self on a regular basis. And I was able to do things, not that I was striving, I was burning. I couldn't stop myself. Like the burning bush. I used to feel like the burning bush. So I was burning, and never burning out. But I just kept pushing people, let's do this. Maybe we should do that. I heard the things the Rebbe said, and I'm like, how can we make that real? How can let's do this. Let's create an event. Let's create a reception for Mashiach, Kabbalah's planning for Mashiach, whatever it was. Let's create a global, awareness campaign. Let's put up a billboard. Let's, whatever it was. but it didn't feel like myself. Small s, it didn't feel like me because I didn't believe in myself. And for years after, but obviously it was my deeper self. For years after, I felt like, it wasn't me. It was just the Rebbe, operating through me, or it was God operating through me. But we're here to we're here to align our smaller self with our higher self. And the only way we can do that is to start to connect with that deeper self and to start to love on the smaller self, to do the healing work, to know that just because we know ourselves a certain way, that doesn't mean that's the way we are. We need to retrieve and reintegrate those pieces of ourselves. And we need to be sovereign. We need to be sovereign, meaning we don't buy into anybody's narrative if it's based on the past, or if it's based on their ego, or if it's based on fear, or if it's based on their limiting beliefs, or if it's based on whatever their need to stay in control. And I don't just mean big players like governments, I mean anyone. The boss of your organization, the principal of your school, your community leaders, anybody who says that the future equals the past. Anyone who says we're just small people, what do we know? Anybody who says we have to stay within the lines, anybody who says be small and scared, say no, thank you. And wake up, please, because you're holding us back. And that's really basically what I'm here to say today. Let me see what you guys are saying. I'm scrolling back up here. In the early 90s, there were huge energy and new age communities. Spot must be pretty quiet at the moment, except for like cats yowling and hyenas at night and an occasional breakout of like extreme happy music in the streets. But I mean, not Bud. Hopefully it will stay peaceful. Hopefully everywhere will be peaceful. But this could have happened, looking back and learning from our mistakes, not in a divine timeline. Everything at the end of the day is meant to be the way it was, but we're not at the end of the day. No, we're always in front of the next moment. So looking back and trying to learn, think about everything that happened, all the losses of the last 32 years since 1991. Every person who's gone, every like piece of pain, and I don't want to dwell there. But none of that had to happen theoretically because it is dependent upon our consciousness. We are going through a change in being. And let's get to it. Because the alternative, I mean, we'll all get there, but how do you want to get there? And how long do you want it to take? And what do you want the process to be? So we're in a supernatural world. And this is what I started saying when the person that I interviewed, world famous, head of healing modality, whatever. You'll get to hear his interview on the summit Miracles and Metamorphosis that I'm doing on hosting on April 18th, 19th, and 20th. So it's a heads up. But he I almost wish I could share it now. We were just talking about the world that's possible, the world that's emerging. I'll tell you one thing he said, preview. He said that he used to say that people are using 10% of their consciousness, of their potential consciousness. And then he thought, no, we're like that. It can't be all 10%. We're capable of more than 90% more than this. So he started saying 5%. Then he said he decided, I don't know how long ago this was, but he decided to actually check in energetically and in prayer and to see what the actual percentage was. Cause he's like, we're pretty stupid. It can't be 5%. It's got to be less. And he said what he got was 0.000000001% of our consciousness and potential is what we're using now. I mean, just think about that for a second. People walk around and saying saying we're created in the image of God, we're divine beings. How much consciousness does a divine being have? And how much of our, even that like tip of the iceberg, you see those pictures of the iceberg with the tip is like the conscious mind, and this big vast thing under the water is like the unconscious, the subconscious mind. Even when it comes to the conscious mind, what people already have, just think, their ability to think and reason. I wonder how much of that has been shut down over the last 3 years. Like 90%, 95%. Trust the this, trust the that. Don't you believe in the. And then let's protest this one. Somebody ramps you up and you're like a robot. You'll go down the street screaming, and someone else ramps you the other way. Is that what you want to be? Is that what any of us are here to be? That's like that's devolving from the potential of mankind not evolving spiritually, and big time, big time, big time devolving. That is not okay, and that is not sovereign. So don't do it. Step out of that. It's urgent. This is the time. And who do you want to say you were? When it all comes to where it's going to, which is going to be unbelievable, unbelievable. But who do you want to have been? What memories do you want to have and share with your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren in the new world that's coming? What do you want to be able to say you contributed? And how do you want it to be for you right now? And knowing that, as I said before, that every person whose consciousness rises just a little bit helps inflate the consciousness bubble, that morphic field of our potential that's interactive with us, that we draw from and give to, that becomes more powerful with everyone who connects to it. That's the morphic field of redemption. So what do you want to do about that? Do you want to deflate the bubble? Do you want to lean on it so it doesn't inflate like powers that be have been doing forever, but especially for the last 3 years? Or do you want to just inflate it till all the dark forces just fall off? And really, that's what I'm here to say today. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. What's the best book, teacher, way to get rid of bad entities? I'm not Jewish, but my heart and mind are. I need help understanding the way to get things off my soul. So first of all, you don't have to be Jewish to be part of the consciousness bubble or to be part of redemption. You don't have to be Jewish. Although I do believe that the Torah is the blueprint for the world and for all of humanity, but the Torah is for everyone. There are commandments for specifically that are incumbent upon Jews that are pretty rigorous, like fast on Yom Kippur and don't use electronics on Shabbat, and pray 3 times a day, and all these. And people who are born Jewish or who convert according to Torah law are taking on those commandments in that journey. But you don't have to do that in order to be godly at all, or to be part of this, or to be part of the Torah, or part of the mission. So I want to say that first. This is for everyone. There was only one. In the beginning, God created one human, that's Adam. And we're all sparks of that cosmic soul. We're all cells in that cosmic soul with different pieces of the mission. So we could talk about that more in the future if you want, like the continuum between being disconnected from that and being fully connected to that. That's the path of the Ger. But okay, back to the question: the best book or whatever to get rid of bad entities. Offhand, I'm like thinking of the emotion code. An emotion code practitioner could help you with that. I don't know what kind of entities you're referring to, but you could write a letter to Lubavitcher Rebbe. You could go to either OHEL, OHEL, Chabad, CHABAD.com, OHELCHABAD.com, and write a letter. You'll get instructions there. You can do an email. You can make a phone call, ask for help from the Rebbe. If you're actually having bad experiences, I would definitely do that. And then work with a healing practitioner that you trust. Emotion code is very reliable. I interviewed or spoke to at a dialogue, really, Ani and Rivka Ranas last week. And Ani's not really available, but Rivka is, and she's amazing. She's amazing. And she's not that expensive yet either. So you can look up her name and get a session from her. I would suggest that. There's books. There are books. The Emotion Code is a book. You can work with it. So you just follow the instructions. If you know muscle testing, you can use almost any modality. And if you don't know muscle testing, you can learn it online. Just Google it. So that would be my best suggestion. And learning, I mean, I have a school, and there are plenty of other teachers that do. So you can check out mine if you want by the links under this video. But there's so much there. There's so much there. There's so much out there now, and we're all here to help each other. or like piggyback, what's it called? Piggybacking, or yeah, piggybacking on each other, so that it's like the morphic field. Every time somebody has a result, the potential and the accessibility of the results gets bigger and easier. And that's what's happening now. So one person is also going to create a quantum effect, because as they raise the consciousness bubble, that means more people are going to fall into more consciousness. And then they're going to take some kind of move and move the whole thing forward. We can do this. You guys, we can do this. We can do this, but we have to understand, we have to take ourselves seriously. This is about sovereignty and healing. I'm so excited for what's happening, even though I'm scared sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to be scared, but I think right now, unless something's happening actively in your space, then I think it's not as hard not to be scared as we think. We're scared because of the media. We're scared because people are, constantly referring to, oh, it's going to be challenging. Oh, I mean, I do think it's smart to be prepared. Like if you live in hurricane country, like some people do, so have some food, have some water, have some cash, like have your gas tank full. Like, why not? Things are only going to get more expensive in the near future. Have some silver, whatever, but that's not the point. I mean, that does help. It does help to just relax, because kind of think, okay, if the store's closed, if the bank's closed for 3 days, 5 days a week, okay, I have a little cash, I'll be able to function. That's common sense. And if you can't, you can't, and that's okay too. But if you can, do it. But scared, we don't have to be scared. We're scared because our minds, you see, this is also part of sovereignty. Our minds are telling us a story. Our minds are running our show. It's the mind gets information from someone else or someplace else that projects a scary scenario, and then the mind is like, not even logically. Usually it goes into what's called high beta, I guess, and it's not even logical, because if the mind would be like, oh, that could happen, okay, what do I do to mitigate that? That would be a good use of the mind. But that is not a good use of the mind, and we need to have sovereignty over our minds. Our minds are not the highest part of us. We need to have sovereignty, especially over that runaway, more animalistic, like the human. There's an expression in Hasidus, the animal soul, the animalistic soul. So that part of the mind goes with that animalistic soul. It's like, oh my gosh, oh my God. It's very fear-based. Learn to master it. Work with your traumas. Do healing work. Feed your mind with information that uplifts you. You don't have to listen to the news. Turn on something or tune into something, and when you're in a calm, aware state, and see what happens in your body. If you get that hit of anxiety, you know that that's a bad addiction. Feed yourself with good information. Feed yourself with uplifting information. Listen to people who are vibrating and at a frequency that you want for yourself. Read books like that. Eat food like that. See it. Give yourself images like that and affirmation. There's so much that you can do. There's so much that you can do. And if you're scared, that's a signal that there's more that you got to do now, because we're all depending on you, because we're all in it together. And it's that consciousness bubble. Your sovereignty means more sovereignty for everybody. So there's the old hierarchy, the pre-Messianic hierarchy, where there are people in charge and everybody else has to follow those people in charge. That's in religion too. That's in government. That's in spirituality and personal growth. That is a valid paradigm for then. But for now, and it's not that we don't need people, we need each other, and we need guides too. But the way a guide should be used is to help us expand our own power. If a guide or a medical practitioner or a media influencer or a government spokesperson, anybody in your life or spiritual leader is helping you to find your own power, great. Why not keep learning from their guidance and their mentorship? But if it separates you and causes you to be a follower because you don't believe in your own power, like I started out, I mean, we're all evolving. I'm still evolving, very much so. I never know what's going to come next in terms of what I didn't see. There's quite a bit there, and I'm sure there still is. But the point is for you to become sovereign. You can get help from other people in your path to sovereignty. I do all the time. Told you I had a session with 2 healers last night. I'm accelerating the amount of help that I'm looking for because I don't want to waste time. There's no time to waste. And I know that what I do affects the whole. So then your sovereignty helps other people to be more sovereign. It's not every man for himself.
Hello?
It's every man for himself and then for everyone. So that's the point that I really am trying to make. That happened to me the other night when tell me if it's clear. Could you type in the chat if it's clear? Not clear. If you have any questions. That happened to me the other night when someone sent me a Dan Bongino clip with a warning. I woke up with a migraine. Yeah, you stepped into the reality of fear. There is this. The morphic field of fear has a lot of gravity to it. It's really easy to get pulled in because our brains are wired that way. Our past lives, every trauma that's still vibrating in our system, whether conscious or unconscious, this life or past lives, that will connect us to that field of fear, and that field of fear is real. It's very strong. We have to connect together and connect higher and deeper and connect to God, to source, and to true leaders, and who help us be sovereign in order to disconnect from that gravity and reestablish a new gravity to the new morphic field that we're building here. That's the field of the Messianic redemption, which is personal. It's personal. It's not that it's not collective. It's happening collectively too. There will be a temple, and there will be the house of prayer for all people, and the portal, one of the main portals between heaven and earth, and there'll be all these things that the positive prophecies talk about. This process is personal. Like if you're a cell in the body, you've got to be a healthy cell. You've got to know who you are. A cell needs to know what it's here for, and it's got to be doing its job in the most healthy way. And yes, connecting to other cells too. And that's how a body heals. That's how homeopathy works, creating a strong vibration in certain cells that then get captured by the system, cause that vibration in the system. Okay. The resurrection will help heal many hearts when we get there. I can hardly believe what I am hearing. I want to prepare a coronation parade for Mashiach. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so one of the things that I did was the Kabbalat Panim. It was a sort of coronation that I did with my friends back in 1991. If you want to make a parade, you want to make a parade after Mashiach comes, before Mashiach comes, as a way to bring Mashiach. How would you do that? Find like-minded friends. We have to build a soul community. What would that look like? What would you imagine it would look like? Would it be floats in a parade? A parade has floats or signs, depicting the new world, the world of the future. Have to think about it. Okay, leaving Mitzrayim, Egypt, means transcending the mind of division, supreme oneness. I believe Torah will be the observance of every nation, without a doubt. But there's Torah and then there's Torah. Like the Torah says that the Torah that will be revealed in the future is the Torah Chadasha, is going to come directly from source, and it's not going to, the laws aren't going to change. I mean, the Torah is not going to change. You can't add or subtract, but it will deepen and expand. It says that the Torah of Olam Hazeh, of this time, will be hevel, like nothingness, compared to the Torah of the future. Just like your awareness of yourself and your world will be like nothingness. The joy that we have now, on those occasions that we can get joyful, will be like nothing, hevel, nothing, compared to the joy that we will feel in the future. All of those things, the love, the consciousness. But we got to be the players. We are the players. Pesach, cleaning, cooking, and crying. That's a good combination. They programmed us to be scared. They're still programming us to be scared. They're doing their best anyway. Stop watching TV and letting them control us. Yeah, but then you've got to lean into something. Nature abhors a vacuum. So you want to be feeding your mind with things that will bring out your sovereignty and your godliness, and then sharing them. How are you going to share them with others? How are you going to spread that vibration? How are you going to spread that information and that reality? By the way, if you appreciate this, which I guess you do if you're on here, please like and subscribe, hit notifications, and share with your friends. Okay, that's something that anyone can do. It takes a second, maybe a minute if you share with a few friends. And who knows? what the ripple effect will be of one person sharing one video of one thing that inspires you with one person. Okay, I'm so glad you feel stronger. What about the mosque next to where the temple is supposed to be? Um, yeah, what about that? God has many means. And there is definitely a possible future where everybody just realizes the truth, meaning that we're all here together and we're all divine beings. And we have to lean into the light and lean into God and lean into the Torah, which is for everyone, and the redemption, which is for everyone. And then I'm sure we'll work out everything really, really peacefully. That can happen at any time, but it depends on you, right? Depends on me, depends on our sovereignty. Okay. Thank you, Tammy. All right, I'm going to go. Thanks so much. Love to be with you.